There are two types of calm. One type of calm is person just walking through the forest, person sitting on a vacation on a hammock, sipping a pina colada. Another type of calm is when somebody's in tightroping across the Niagara Falls and there's a crowd under him and he's calm because he knows that there's a harness that's invisible that nobody sees. And that if he ever falls, then he's going to be saved, and that harness is God. A person could fly in 35,000 feet up in the air in a metal tube with an airplane, knowing that he's calm, not that he's not in danger, not that he has no risk, not that the weather can maybe happen in the sky, something that he can't control, and because he trusts the airline that he's using, that the pilot didn't have some marijuana at breakfast in his chocolate cake. He's relying on the fact that things are going to be okay because he trusts. And that trust is what brings calmness. So there's two types of calmness. One is when there's no risk, and one is when there's risk, but there's trust. You could have a person who is trying to train his child to swim. And he tells his child, jump into the water, I got you. The kid's going to jump into the water and the father's not going to catch him. The kid's going to have to try to figure out how to swim. And the father's going to be there in case something happens. He knows that if he's going to drown, the father's going to quickly pull him out of the water. And we are in the same situation. We don't realize how much we're relying on God. Every breath, out of the 20,000 breaths we take a day, every breath we're relying on God. And we don't realize that things that we are afraid of that come and sneak in, creep into our minds of things that we should start fearing are not as scary as things that we're already relying on God. You know, people are more afraid of sharks than they are of bathtubs, but more people die in bathtubs than from sharks. People are more afraid of flying than driving a car. But when you're driving a car, who's to tell you who's on the road with you? But you're still relying on God, and there's more chances that a person will die from crashing into a deer than from a plane crash. So we're relying on God so much anyway, and that's the calmness of the driver. And a driver who's not calm is not a good driver. A pilot who's not calm is not a good pilot. You can't enjoy the flight if you're not calm as a passenger. And you'll never learn how to swim if you're not a calm swimmer. And that's the same thing true with coming towards this Rosh Hashanah. David HaMelech tells us that although that there's all types of dangers coming up every single year in judgment time, Bezot ani boteach, I rely on Hashem. Hashem is my light. In my judgment on Rosh Hashanah, I'm not afraid of anything, even though there's a lot to be afraid of, because I trust that I could come towards Hashem. When you need God, He's there for you. Sometimes we want Him before He's needed. We want the harness, we want to feel it, even though you're not yet falling. We want to be able to have our Father grab us, even though we didn't even yet start swimming. We want to be able to know and go into the cockpit and test that the pilot's okay, even though we really know from the past all the flights that we relied on United or relied on Elul, relied on Delta, and all of a sudden you're questioning again. Why are you questioning? And that's what Hashem wants us to be calm, bezot ani boteach, to be calm in Hashem in the place of risk. Hashem wants us to take a risk. The reason why you can't give a loan with interest is because Hashem wants us to make off money from risk situations, and when you're having a loan with interest, so you're making money with no risk involved. And we need to be calm to be the best, making the best choices in business. And that comes after we have that trust. Now recognize how many places in life are you anyway trusting God, relying on Him. How many times are you anyway saying, God, you got this for me, and I don't even have myself figured out, but you figured out for me. And that's what the Mishnah Berurah says to us, is that if we want to be able to have a great Rosh Hashanah, we have to recognize the risk that's at stake. At the same time, we also have to be relying on Hashem, trusting in Him that He's going to take care of it. And the fact that we trust in Him, that's the greatest merit, that we're going to have a great Rosh Hashanah, a great judgment for the new year. So interesting that the time that we're judged on Rosh Hashanah is when we blow the shofar, which means to say by us blowing shofar, especially if we make an early shachrit on Rosh Hashanah, we blow shofar, we bring upon ourselves judgment early. And that we're showing that we're bringing upon ourselves judgment is showing, you know why we're taking honest judgment. You know why we're jumping into the pool. You know why we're going onto that plane. You know why I'm tight roping, because I know that Hashem is my harness. I know that Hashem is my pilot. I know that Hashem is my father. And when we show that in that merit alone, that's the merit that we could be saved on Rosh Hashanah. So make sure you take risks, but make sure you're also at the same time calm as you trust in Hashem that He's there for you.